Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show for 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and evil evidence endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes, Riley, and Williams. So grab your copy today for Girls Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by a picture of this photo book, so remembering is the key ingredient. How beautiful your mother looked at her wedding, and even more so at yours. And who doesn't miss grandma's meatballs, huh? Well, the holidays are coming, and what better time to give a gift of remembrance that makes you laugh and cry at the same time? Whatever gift of grandma's recipes, or just because those smiles and tears will just melt your heart. Call Karen Shaw, picture this photo books at 646-798-0809. That's 646-798-0809, or visit picturethisphotoBooks.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Picture This Photo Books. Bring your memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on over 30 podcast platforms like Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Apple Music, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter today. And don't forget to check out the Mike Wagner Show merchandise coming soon to the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also, check out the merchandise like t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, throw pillows, tote bags, and more. Go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mia Molson-Zia store for missing, ones, wrinkles, and a lot of great books and great merchandise. Good 24/7 as well. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. And don't forget to support the Mike Wagner Show generously at the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also support us on Anchor FM and PayPal. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's an author of a brand new book, and he's also got a couple of on Amazon, like The Happiness Code and Naughty or Nice List. And whose list are you on? I guess we'll answer that question in just a minute. And he's done everything from helping the government catch naughty folks to running the Walt Disney Marathon as a woman. And he's focusing on becoming a world-renowned author. And of course, he's got some favorite genres, and he's also climbed the top of Mount Fuji, got kicked off of Mount Rainier, and also sailed through a Suez Canal, taught English in Japan. We'll find out more about his great ventures along with his new book we'll talk about. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful Northern Virginia, the very multi-talented author of the brand new book, The Devil Pulls the Strings, author Joe Zarek. Joe, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, it's great to have you on board too. And of course, before we talk about the books that you've written, like The Happiness Code, Naughty or Nice, whose list you're on, you've done just about everything possible, like helping the government catch bad guys, to running the Walt Disney Marathon as a woman. And you also have climbed the top of Mount Fuji, got kicked off of Mount Rainier, and you also sailed through a Suez Canal and taught English in Japan. And before we got started, what else have you done and what haven't you done? I guess that's my question.
Oh, I'm your typical, veteran, served 2 decades in the Navy around the globe, both Persian Gulf War, Cold War, and been all around. And, even in the Persian Gulf, hunted pirates, did a little bit of everything. Been stationed all over. Yeah, it's been a fantastic career, but transitioned and moved on to different government agencies and continuing that work. So I'm behind the scenes guy, worked FBI, other locations too. And it's been a real fun career.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like a fun career too. And tell us how you first got started in your career. You talked about being a veteran, and how'd you first get started?
What, as a veteran?
Oh, or just like, go way back, like the Wayback Machine.
Well, originally I came from my mother. And then after New York City grew up, you can pick up on the accent. And then it just wanted to serve in the country. So Navy was a calling. joined. And sure enough, they sent me to Winter Harbor, Maine, my first command. And then they sent me over to Japan. And it kept going from there with a lot of assignments all over that I can't talk about, but still very fun. And even ended up in the Gulf during the first Gulf War. And then also then again back when we were still going years later after. So very, very interesting to do that, do vessel boardings. Yeah, it was interesting. And when we went to hunt pirates, that was crazy because who thinks of pirates in today's day and age? But they're still out there.
Mhm. And of course, it's not the Pirates of the Caribbean type, folks. So don't think of Johnny Depp as a pirate. It's like you'll probably be shocked or probably have a heart attack when you see an actual pirate guy. So we're giving you a heads up.
You are correct. Yes.
Well, I do have a lot. Well, I do have a lot of gold with me, and I'm going to take this with here. So, yeah, we watch all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies too, as you could tell. So, and of course, just the things you've done as well too. That you were helping the government catch the bad guys and running Walt Disney Marathon as a woman. And how'd you tell us about that story? How you come up with the idea?
So I did not. I ran the marathon successfully as a biological male. However, on their website, they listed me as successfully completing the marathon as a 44-year-old woman. So I thought that was funny and I didn't want to change it. And then I called my mom and asked what other secrets she was keeping from me.
Oh my gosh, that's something. I don't know if I can even finish a marathon, almost like a Mickey Mouse time here. So we just have that. And of course, you also climbed Mount Fuji and you got kicked off of Mount Rainier. And tell us about the story about Mount Rainier.
So Mount Rainier is fantastic. When you go, you can go in a day, and there's Camp Muir Station where you sleep. That's about 10,500 feet up. But when we got up there, our group, there were ranger came in to kick us off because there were avalanche warnings.
Oh, I see.
But we were right to the top almost, and we were like begging him, just let us go. He didn't see us, but no, got kicked off, and I haven't been back, but someday I would love to go back and finish climbing because that's an amazing mountain. Because 8 to 10,000 feet, there's snow all around you, and it's just fantastic. And you can still be in shorts, so it's awesome. It's a fantastic place in Washington State.
Huh. That sounds like it too. And since we're on the subject of mountain climbing, and what are some of the other mountains you've climbed, and what do you plan on climbing?
Well, I always wanted to climb the tallest mountains in the world, but I'm older now, so that still would be great after I retire from the government. But still, I've been on Mount Fuji, and that's that's a mountain in Japan. They say, you're a fool in Japan if you never climb, but if you climb more than once, you're a bigger fool. And
Really?
that you get a nice stick and you get stamps. And sure enough, I wanted my stick and I wanted my stamps. And every so many feet, there's another person on the mountain that'll stamp your stick. And when you get to the bottom, you can just buy the stick with all the stamps.
I think I'll make that as a souvenir, so I can simply say, "Hey, I did this," although I really didn't. So it makes great souvenirs. So
No, but it's easy enough. I mean, there are older groups, people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that climb every year, and it's incredible. They're not fast, but they get where they're going.
hmm
And they're,
and
yeah,
of
go on.
course, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, you're on a roll here. So
No. I said you can go. People bring mountain bikes and snowboards, so it's amazing when you get up at a certain point. There's places where you can actually take your snowboard and go on this red ash dirt. And if you want a mountain bike, sure, there's that too. And there are races every year where different groups run up for charity. It's an amazing mountain. If you're ever in Japan, it's something that's easy to do.
oh my goodness, and that has to be as well too. And of course, we also mentioned about sailing through a Suez Canal, taught English in Japan. And what are some other ventures that you've done as well too? While you're with the government, your free time, especially before becoming an author.
Well, traveling when I was in Japan, it was funny. I fell into teaching English conversation because a friend I worked with said, "Hey, come with me." I'm like, "Okay." And we showed up, and then there I am pronouncing words in English. And the next thing I know, he's like, "Hey, thanks, you're taking over for me." And And it's like, and very gracious individuals. And most students are, funny enough, anywhere from 20 to 27, single, living at home, all kind of stories. But in there, I tell you what, that was an amazing experience. I had a 16-year-old Japanese male that I thought he was messing with me because some people mispronounce certain letters, like the R's or the L's, and they mix them around. And in a lesson, we were ordering lemon tea. And people were getting, I would like to order some lemon tea. And he kept saying, I would like to order some lemon tea. And I really thought he was messing with me. And he could break the syllables out. But in that, his brain reversed those letters and everyone else was laughing. And I thought he was messing with me, but that was there. And I had a 94-year-old man. He was crying, very happy because he got to speak his first English in my class. And that was just nice, a heartwarming thing.
It does sound heartwarming as well, too. You also, wrote some other books as well, too. We'll talk about the Happiness Code, and we'll also talk about Naughty or Nice in just a few minutes. But first, listen to the Mike Widener Show at themikewidnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Widener Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Widener Show, international warring author Mia Molson Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and enjoyed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Girls Missing by Mia Molson Zia, available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Widener Show is brought to you by Picture This Photo Books, where remembering is the key ingredient. How beautiful your mother looked at a wedding, and even more so at yours. And who doesn't miss grandma's meatballs, huh? The holidays are coming. What better time to give a gift for remembrance that makes you laugh and cry all at the same time? Whatever gift for grandma's recipes or just because, those smiles and tears will melt your heart. Call Karen Shaw at Picture This Photo Books at 646-798-0809. That's 646-798-0809. And visit picturethisphotoBooks.com. Mention the Mike Widener Show, get 10% off your first order. Picture This Photo Books, bring your memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you. And don't forget to check out the Mike Widener Show on over 30 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Widener Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Widener Show on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter today. And don't forget to check out the Mike Widener Show merchandise at themikewidnershow.com and also on Amazon.com under the Mike Widener Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, throw pillows, tote bags, and more. We've got right here at the Mike Widener Show. And also check out the Me and Molson Zia store on Amazon for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, tank tops, you name it, he's got it. It's the Me and Molson Zia store on Amazon. Make sure you check out today. And don't forget to support the Mike Widener Show on Anchor FM, as well as PayPal and the MikeWidenerShow.com. Make sure you donate generously today. We're here with the amazing, multi-talented author Joe Zarek here on the Mike Widener Show with his new book, The Devil Pulls the Strings, to be it's out September 15th as we speak here. And before that, you also wrote books, The Happiness Code, Naughty or Nice, Whose List Are You On? And before we talk about those books, tell us how you got started as an author and who are some of your favorite authors growing up?
Well, as part of the work I do, a lot of report writing and always have to summarize information so other people reading it know what the heck the case is about. So it just was a natural with research. It just was a natural step to fall in because with my first book, Naughty or Nice, Whose List Are You On? I had to write that book because I feel everybody has the right to be safe and keep themselves safe. And that book I handed out lectures. It's an award-winning book. And that book it shows red flags in relationships because some people, they need one red flag. That's enough. Other people need 10 red flags before they get the message. Wow. But what's really significant is, and Gavin DeBecker, he I believe said, everybody has the right to be safe. And he's an author and speaker that tells you to trust your gut instinct. He's a phenomenal speaker. And in my book, Naughty and Nice, Whose List Are You On? I just wanted people to be aware of these red traits that exist in many people's handwriting, because when you fall in love with that serial killer that you don't know is a serial killer, before you bring them home to meet mom and dad for dinner, you'd like to maybe discover these red traits before you find out you and mom and dad are the main course.
Oh, wow. Okay. And of course, you talk about these red flags. What are some of the examples of red flags, especially seeing a person, handwriting, character traits, or anything like that? What are some of the red flags that you highlight in your book?
Yeah, exactly. So everybody has personality traits, and in it, ironically, handwriting, that's where when I was in the Navy, I kept seeing things when I'd be putting people through background investigations for all different clearance levels. And I would notice things in their handwriting, shakiness, long drawn out. And I was just curious about it because I kept seeing with the people that had issues and problems, I kept seeing the same malformations of formations in the handwriting. And it turns out, makes sense. Happy people write happy, sad people write sad. And then people that get more dysfunctional, wow, they too have things in their handwriting that just really show off. Like one kid I was interviewing, I asked what prescribed medicine he was on, and he's got shaky and nervous. He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what's in your system is there for 28 days. He's like, you can see that? Yeah, I just need to know what prescribed medicine you're on. You can tell I'm taking marijuana? And I'm like, well, it's what's there. And
Wow.
so doctors just know for as long as they've been prescribing medicine, they may often turn to a patient's handwriting to see how it's changed, to see if they have to lower or adjust their handwriting accordingly. And an example is when you drink alcohol, it's a depressant. So your handwriting naturally gets more sluggish. And then if you're taking a drug that, let's say, speeds up your metabolism, some people take speed, LSD, cocaine. And the point is now your handwriting becomes erratic in certain patterns. And it's repeating, and all handwriting it's just a snapshot. So if you took a snapshot of a winter scene and showed that to somebody else, everybody could almost tell universally, oh, that is a winter scene. And when you take a person and ask them to write something down, you're taking a snapshot of the person. So it shows, yeah, all emotional traits. It shows their physical trauma. I was at a trade show for cardiologists, and one of the cardiologists who came up, her friend had said, show the handwriting, show the handwriting. And she scribbled words down for me. And I looked at that, and I didn't have a magnifying glass, but I said, oh, you had trauma in your midsection. And she got nervous, said, no, I didn't. And her friend is like, tell him. And it turns out the person had lost a baby, a child
Oh,
recently. And that shows up in your handwriting. It's just an absence of a V space. It looks really odd, but it stands out when you know. But I've also interviewed people and talked with people who it doesn't just show the negative or bad. I had one person that I was at another show for pharmacological convention down in Orlando. And this person, I came up and I said, wow, are you religious, or do you have something to do with the church or something? And he was a pastor, and all his
hmm.
people behind him was. And what was interesting in his handwriting, he drew his handwriting as if it looked like an angel with wings wrapped around. And that's what his image. So when you draw, we draw pictograms. We in our handwriting, we actually form that we're not paying attention to, but our subconscious does. So getting back to red flags, when people, here's an interesting thing. Sometimes people put things in their handwriting like a smiley face at the end of their writing. That may be harmless, but then again, maybe not.
Hmm.
Thomas Kane, he's an individual that's locked away that won't get out, and he has some of the most evil handwriting, and all these traits, these things that would be a red flag you'd want to look at. But simple red flags are stubbornness, and what's relevant, more important than even a specific trait, is you're with somebody and you're always bumping heads. And in a relationship, you just want to know why they do what they do, whether they know it or not, just so you can work with them better. So imagine if you both could see what you guys bump your heads, and you could learn and then see each thing, the perspective from the person. An example is someone who's high speed with somebody who is super slow, and they're on an assembly line together or in a team. Well, the person who's high speed will end up killing the person who's really slow. And I'm just joking, but because that's a conflict. But knowing that if you were a supervisor or a team lead, you wouldn't put people on together. But even still, when I worked at the FBI, I wasn't a special agent, but I worked with a lot of special agents and counseled them. And they would give me cases, always shoving them in my face, just asking for clarification. And there'd be things where they couldn't catch the person to reveal information because they weren't asking better questions. And you can see in writing, there's a field called statement analysis where you see deception in writing. And it's very important. Secret Service has a course that they teach for this, but that's just showing in where we speak when we lie or deceptive, we change the words we use. So if in a murder, there's a person, we'll say military, and he does kill someone and you want the facts, well, military people and law enforcement use certain verbiage when they speak, and they call their weapon, and it's holstered, it's secure. But when they take it out, now they may be firing a specific 9mm, a 45. And when you're talking to people, just by having them write out, let's say example, you have 3 people you believe stole from your cash register. You don't know who did it, but if you just ask them to write how the circumstance happened, the facts, then you will see in the handwriting where deception appears with spaces, vagueness in numbers, and then you can now ask better questions when you go back to ask people. One guy, we were doing a case, a lot of money disappeared under his watch, wanted to know where it went. He wasn't talking, but it seems he really loved motorcycles and he loved blondes with rather a big chest. And so funny enough, somebody was assigned with blonde hair and a big chest and who happened to like motorcycles too. And he shared a lot of information that allowed him to be put away. But then there are other people too, where people just have a naughty side and they have a panache for holding hands with the wrong type of people. And they travel to locations around the world where there are houses of prostitution. And we've had people, one case, and it was a tragic case, but there was a employee who was aggressive, and the agents wanted to know what the heck, and they showed me the case file, and I said, oh, well, this, and they showed me 2 handwritings. Oh. This person had, well, it was a couple, and the male had punched and kicked the female in the stomach, and it caused her to abort her baby.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, that was a tragic story, but funny enough, in the handwriting, it showed that the person had a proclivity for violence, and he had certain buttons, and she was an opposite, like opposites attract, to trigger those reactions. And when I explained these facts, the agents hadn't shared the facts, but I was saying, oh, in these circumstances, this person could be violent and he could strike out. And in this person, they trigger these results. And then the agent told me more of the facts, and they just needed better questions. And it's amazing. Those are the things that handwriting can and do tell. I had a psychologist overhearing a conversation on a plane, funny enough, to a conference in Denver, and she shoved her case file in my face. And she was stymied. She says, look, I'm really stymied. I'm sorry to bother you, but I have this patient and they've been with me about 8 weeks, and I don't know if they're telling the truth about being suicidal. And I had looked at the handwriting and I said, yeah, they don't believe anything you're saying. You really need to put them on a watch and make sure that they were really insecure. These were the things showing in the handwriting, and to approach. And then I gave a whole, what would be a case history of the person. And the psychologist got like a little angry in her face. And I'm like, what's wrong, doc? And she says, that assessment you just gave, staring at the case and going through the handwriting, took me 8 weeks to arrive at.
Really?
And so what the benefit is when you see certain triggers. So for examples of happy people writing upward, John Kennedy, president, he had the highest enthusiasm in his hand. And just a quick note for people, and I could do this to you if you want on your show,
Sure.
analyze your handwriting.
Okay.
Real simple. You can write on the piece of paper.
Okay.
Just write this. You ready?
Yes.
I know,
I know.
said the
Okay.
purple people eater.
Okay. Now, do you want this in cursive or in block?
Either way, cursive is fine.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I'm a warning right now. I'm a pretty sloppy
That's okay.
handwriter, but I'll go ahead. So I know,
Yeah, I know, said the purple people eater.
said the purple people
Eater.
eater. Okay.
You and your silly monkey.
You and your silly monkey.
Don't go home to the zoo.
Don't go into.
Don't go home.
Oh, don't go
Don't go
home.
home to the zoo.
Oh, don't go home to the zoo. Okay.
And then sign your name anywhere under there. And then you can hold it up to the screen. I'll keep it nice and social and polite. So any of your own business is your own business. But for entertainment purposes, I can share some things about you. And I don't know you. So
Hey, here. All right, here we go. Can you see this okay? Whoops, let me
oh yeah, that's well, hold
let's
on.
see.
Okay, that's a little bit closer.
Okay, how's
Okay,
that?
so let's see. Okay. Just looking at that. You get attention drawn to you, whether you ask for it or not. Definitely. Wow. You could have been a prosecutor because you can hold
What?
your own in a heated discussion, sir. That is awesome.
A prosecutor? Oh my gosh.
Well, defender, prosecutor, but you can hold your own in a heated discussion. Wow. And I mean, there's more stuff, but you pulled the paper away. But the point is, very quickly, there's a lot of things that you can see. And when you're doing a bigger assessment, profiling, you get information. So what's relevant is if you were doing therapy, here's the significance for therapists using handwriting in their practices. You on a platter get to see things. Now, the reason 8 weeks to 12 weeks is significant, a lot of state funding runs out between 8 to 12 weeks. But what the handwriting shows you is a snapshot of all their trauma to emotional issues. And the point is now when you're giving them therapy, you can guide it much more effectively and efficiently, and you can keep reaffirming. And there are ways to raise self-esteem. Even the letter T that you draw, even though your letter T,
Okay.
if you think of your arms and your shoulders,
Okay.
where are your arms? Are they at your ankles? That would be silly. Are they at your waist? No, that would still be silly, but they're on your shoulders and your arms. You form a natural T. Now, I can't stand up, but you're forming a natural T, and that's pretty high. So what's relevant about the T bar, where you cross, there are over 112 traits. You can put your arms down now, but the most important thing is where you cross the letter T is significant. So when it's in the middle of the length of the character, you know, you're very practical. You hit all your goals. But the great part is as you rise up, and John F. Kennedy, which I referenced before, highest enthusiasm, a dreamer, he takes all his T's and he, at the top of the letter, be it small, lowercase, or uppercase, he always crosses the T at the very top.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah. And it's cool to look up and see. And of course he was a dreamer, and wow, what an inspirational fellow. Now, also significant, some people, they draw the top of the letter T above what would be the line. So you're above. The problem is now you're a true dreamer, but you don't ever hit your goals. And so what's important is you connect and you can go as high as possible. Now, the great part, if you know Jack Canfield, and NASA did a study that shows that after 27 to 30 days, whatever you do on a routine or regular basis, this is regarding behaviors and habits, you make permanent, so you don't have to think about them anymore. So as an exercise for you and all your listeners, they can cross their T's from the middle all the way to the top where they're touching the letter at the very top. And what will happen is as 2 to 3 weeks pass, you may not notice changes around you, being more confident, just being things just working to your advantage better, but everyone else around you will start to notice. So when you do speak out, you're not speaking in an offensive or blunt way, but you're speaking in a confident way. And it's simple. Now, I did community service at a library, and I met a person who overheard me looking at people's handwriting, and he said, "Could I show you some of my handwriting?" And I said, "Sure." He brought in the next day 4. Now, I don't know if you remember in 4th grade, kids that would use black and white composition notebooks.
I remember that. Yes.
Well, he brought in 4 of these, and he's an adult in his 20s, and he hands them to me. And even though it didn't matter that he has a Muslim background, what was significant is when you look at the handwriting of serial killers, they have a lot of malformations and very specific, I won't say evil traits, but they have a lot of red flags that don't bode well in society, that's why it's good when they're locked up. This person truly was at the pre-stages of being a serial killer. And he also brought in his girlfriend's handwriting. Same. And when he gave me these composition notebooks, I said, "Are you a writer?" "No." "These are journals?" "No." "These are school notebooks?" "No." "What are these?" "Oh, these are just my thoughts." But then what was funny is he wanted me to show him how to be more confident. And I refused to do that. Now, I did give him a contact number for a psychotherapist in his area, because I always carry with me, typically, I have 3 numbers of area therapists when I'm traveling through an area, because when I meet people who are suicidal, when I meet people who could benefit from some type of help, I don't call them out on what's wrong with them at all, but I just let them know when people are suicidal, you can actually ask them, "Do you want to talk about how you're feeling?"
That's really interesting. Very interesting. All right, we're here with author Joel Zarek here on the Mike Wagner Show, and we're talking.
You're back.
Okay, we had some technical difficulties here on the Mike Wagner Show. We apologize to our listeners, and also the fact that we were just talking about serial killers and with some of the handwriting and everything, and hopefully a serial killer didn't get in and try to interrupt our recording. So I just hope they didn't break in like that. So like naughty, naughty, naughty. So.
But to recap, I don't know where we got cut off, but I did get the individual who he definitely could be a future serial killer. I got him into counseling, but it was scary that he kept coming up to me to hand me his handwriting, saying, "All right, what do you see now? What do you see now? What do you see now?" I mean, literally every 10 to 15 minutes, very obsessive compulsive. And with serial killers, not all of them are the same, but he had definitely an interest and love for harming small animals, lighting fires, doing damage to self and other people. And it was incredible to see all of that in his handwriting. But the one thing that I got cut off, so I don't know if you heard, but I refused to show him how to raise his self-confidence. Like, although I touched upon that on your show to raise the T-bar, I don't want to have confident serial killers running around.
Oh, that makes sense. You're right. And I was also thinking about this too before we got cut off. You talk about handwriting analysts and everything else. And do you also offer that as a service too? It's just like when you show me this here, and I'm like really surprised. And this is how I've always written. And my daughter kind of likes write this too, say your show business and everything like that. And do you also offer handwriting analysis as well?
I do, but it's more, I get still folks in law enforcement, different agencies still reach out to me because, again, I'm also a court qualified document examiner in state and federal court. Totally different. That's using forensics and science to look at documents that are manipulated and changed. Doesn't use handwriting at all. It's 2 different fields. For this, the only benefit is it just clues you in to information. And what you do with that information is what's significant. And when you have a case that you haven't been able to close in 2 years, but now you're given the information that allows you to ask better questions. Now you can ask questions in statement analysis. And also there's certain interrogation techniques when you're interviewing people for passive and more aggressive techniques. You can ask people point blank questions as long as they're worded in a specific frame. Understand, people don't intend to lie. That doesn't mean they'll reveal everything. So what's significant is when you ask a specific question with a specific articulation, now you can actually get information from people because they're not lying. They're staying true to themselves, even though they don't want to tell you they've killed somebody or done something. But that's significant. And when you see that in handwriting, it just allows you to redirect. I had another case where another analyst, she was also a private detective in the West Coast. She sent me handwriting and I was like, what the heck is this? And it was the client knew the person stalking them had been incarcerated, but they had to move 2 previous times because the
Wow.
stalker kept finding them. And in the handwriting, the scariest thing was here was a person in the handwriting that truly was building a shrine to this person. And if they couldn't have them, nobody could. And it was all, and in the images, when you're looking at images, like the letter D, for example, is a letter of personality for your ego. And, the taller it is, hey, it's not that necessarily you have a higher ego. It just means there are certain things when you look at other letters, it now shows a clearer picture. And that's relevant, and how it leans, like to the right, like your handwriting leans to the right. So you could have also been an actor, and Hallmark commercials may make you tear up. And, it's little things like that. You smiled. Thanks for that confirmation. But the most important thing is when you see these things, in this case, this stalker was going to be released. And at first it was a tragic accident that they weren't going to let the person know that the person was being released. But this detective had the information. I'm like, oh, you got to tell her, because if this person has found her 2 times, you don't understand. In the handwriting, a lot of the imagery was phallic, but it also tribute reference to God. And it was like as scary as and macabre as could be, with just the images and the pictograms that were manifesting in their handwriting that told a completely different picture. So when you're pointed out to images of what would be a guillotine,
Wow.
in handwriting, or there are figures that people are drawing, and in Chinese writing, a lot of that is a pictogram language written, where what is the word for car? It actually looks like the front grille, which used to be an ox cart, and you have all these things that can transpose. And in our modern handwriting, even though you learn a handwriting system, you put your own quirks, idiosyncrasies in there, and that's where you now subconsciously just start putting in imagery. And it's significant. Again, it's relevant when you're simply trying to ascertain certain information quickly. For a therapist, a psychologist, it's great. You get on a platter all the emotional issues and turmoil the person's going through to redirect counseling. When you're in a scene, and no, the FBI doesn't use handwriting analysis to find things. It just was a habit I picked up in the Navy. And then sure, I went through a 3-year program to get, qualified and certified. But even still, what's relevant is when you're trying to just get to the bottom of certain information and it cuts through all the fluff, that's the benefit to it. Now, for fun, in a show like this, yeah, people could give a phrase. They can get 3 to 5 things that are entertaining, humorous, even shocking, naughty if you have their spouse or a mate next to them and they stand behind the spouse or mate, and everything you're saying, the spouse or mate is confirming with nods and smiles. It's true. And it's amazing. So that, and I didn't mean to derail the whole thing, but it is an amazing thing. And that's why I wrote Naughty or Nice, whose list are you on? Because I wanted to hand it out at lectures, because again, I just wanted people to be safe, because again, you may need one red flag to go, yep, okay, that person, da-da. Or you may actually need 10 red flags because you're just not naive, but you know what? You need that validation on that depth before you're willing to commit to say, yes, that person is naughty. Many organizations have what are called golden childs, or people that just, it's not that they walk on water, but they can do no wrong. And we've all known people like that. And even though, wow, there are folks that are just doing the worst of the worst, making their organizations look bad, somehow they just keep, swimming in. It's like, wow. And then when you can no longer hide or cover up their mistakes, and this is people, could be from murderers or people doing big fraud, or just people they get drunk and run into a lot of people in their car and you can't cover it anymore. Then the organizations are like, oh, that guy's always been trouble. When I was at the FBI, this was an actual case. There was a person who it was bad enough he kept having alcohol incidents, but he decided to have chicken wings, drink alcohol, and then got stopped with an open container of alcohol by a state trooper. And in his handwriting, it was really significant. And the process, all we do is qualify if a person can have a background investigation and a security clearance, and if they can go through the security process or not. So he passed that, but the bigger trigger was he was going to be an agent in the open public. And because he hadn't gone through a rehabilitation program, the concern was he's just truly a loaded gun going into the public. And even though he cleared security, and I was like, we need to have a policy that at least gets people into counseling. So, all the money we invested in them, hey, we're doing some good. Well, shoot to about 4 months later in the news, there's a person who was assigned to one of the government agencies in DC. They ended up running down while intoxicated, a 14-year-old, and took their life. And we can't take the life back, but the benefit to all this, because I remember the name, and I'm like, I know that name. And I looked up and I was like, oh my God, that was the person I wrote down to say we have to do something, but there wasn't a policy in place. But the best part is, a policy was written when somebody has documented alcohol incidents. They now are mandated to go to counseling. And the best part is that instruction came across my desk and I got to review it and give my thumbs up on that. So that way now people aren't bad. Rehabilitation may be 50% effective in that. I don't know if it's going to be successful for you or not, but with all the money spent training people, getting them up to be in the public with a weapon, why not put them through rehabilitation as mandated, just because we want to help people? And even though, no, we can't stop and replace a person's life that was lost, the fact that all moving forward, that happened, and at least, you can get help for people. So handwriting, these are all these things that I used handwriting for all of this. And it helps. Even in the Navy, I helped 4 people who were suicidal get help they needed because I saw things that were look concerning in their handwriting. Wow. And where you have false enthusiasm, where a person writes at an upward angle, but it's an exaggerated upward angle, and sometimes we do that. Anyway, but there were other things too, where they had many things that had depression, which again, now handwriting is going at a downward angle. And it's not just word to say, oh, that means depression. No, that you look at a lot of things. But when you look at all these things, and self-esteem was really low on that person. I had one person, I was stationed with, and I asked, have you told anybody what you're feeling? And he knew exactly what I meant. And he says, no, but I'd like to talk to someone. And I got him into help, and nice. It was great. And so those are good wins. And that's why I wrote the book, just to hand it out at lectures. And for handwriting, I've done events where I've literally stood for 8 hours and people are coming through, and I'm doing it for, whatever I've been brought in to analyze handwriting for. But it's great that I'm able to help people and on a high speed. But that's, I've moved on where I do that to help agents and other friends, but it's not my main focus now. Writing is.
And of course, speaking of writing as well too, and of course, Naughty or Nice, whose list are you on? It's not Christmas, guys. If in case you're wondering, that's very obvious and made clear by author Joe Zarek here on the Mike Wagner Show. This brings us to another book, which is called The Happiness Code. And of course, everybody's looking to be happy. And tell us more about that book.
So this is a great thing. Ray Brim, he's a best-selling author. I think he has 11 bestsellers now. He invited me to be one of the co-authors on The Happiness Code. It's a bestseller, launched March 30th. And the great thing is all the authors write their happiness hacks, all the things that they do that help bring happiness into their own lives. And for I call them happiness hacks, but it's whatever you do, technique, tip that allows you to make your life better. Like really, my first happiness hack it comes from Buddha, but you make the choice to be happy.
Mhm.
And when you make that choice, just to be aware that, yeah, I want to be happy. And maybe today you don't know how to be happier, but understand it's important. All the other authors, and it was great for me reading all their insight and story, because I go into why I ran the marathon in that story, because I did that, funny enough, because I'm a disabled veteran. And when I was at Walter Reed, I was getting fitted for a shoe insert, and I was surrounded in a room of other veterans that had lost limbs, arms, legs,
Oh, yeah.
and everybody was laughing, joking, just getting along, because the disabilities did not define us. Nobody in that room was defined. Sure, we had missing limbs, but you know what? We were getting on with our lives, and it was just something you deal with. But I sat there. Now, my dad, he always wanted to run a marathon too.
Mhm.
And I made the decision that day that, you know what, even though, yeah, I have a permanent limp, I've been injured in the first Persian Gulf War, and almost lost my leg there, and I have permanent paralysis in my right leg. But sitting there in all this room of veterans, I said, you know what, I want to run a marathon for my father and all these men and women, veterans who can no longer run. And that's what got me. And my father, he passed away from lymphoma cancer. And I found Team in Training, which basically many different sporting events, but they will train you for the sporting event you do, and you'll raise money for whatever charity. And for me,
Wow.
it was Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And I raised like about $4,000. I was happy about that. But in doing that, I biomechanically, no, I have neuropathy, permanent neuropathy in both legs and the feet, flat feet. I have permanent ulcers, all the things that you would not make a runner,
Mhm.
even though I used to run. But I made that promise to said, you know what, while I can still walk and run, I'm going to do this for all the men and women who can no longer run. And even when I was training, I had a coach stop me at the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. There was the Mount Vernon Trail, or I'm sorry, the Mount Vernon Parkway has a 14-mile trail. And running up the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, air pockets form on the nerves, and it really painful to run at certain angles up. So it slowed me up. But when I came down, the coach actually stopped me running. And he says, you can't continue. You're not going to make the time for the marathon at the Walt Disney World Marathon. You can't do this. And I said, stop, because I physically was fine. It's just the going up a hill, angle or down. I can't help the air pocket forming on the nerve. It's just really painful. And anybody who's ever had air exposed on your nerve, woohoo, it's fun.
Oh, yeah. We've been there, done that. Oh, no fun.
So when he stopped me and he says, I wipe my hands clean of you. I'm not, he was a coach for Team in Training, but he's like, you're going to get injured. You're going to hurt yourself. And I wasn't running for that. I'm not fast, but again, and I finished my run for the day. And sure enough, after the marathon, now, funny enough, at mile 20, because I had never run beyond 20 miles in the training, I was going to stop. My feet were flat. There's a thing called runner's wall. And in runner's wall, your body just gives up. You're exhausted. You can't go on. A Team in Training coach, I don't know who he was, he had an amazing accent, and he ran alongside me. And he says, what's wrong? He says, I said, I think I'm going to stop. And he's like, wait a second, why are you running? And I said, well, for my father and veterans who can no longer run. And he said, keep going. And it gave me the motivation to keep going. And when he turned around, he was gone. So I don't know if he was a guardian angel or what, but that was enough to get me to finish the rest of the marathon. And that coach who had actually put his hands on my shoulders to stop me, he's like, you know, I owe you an apology. You did it. And when I was crossing the finish, when I crossed the finish line, it was like, you know, I looked up and it, you know, it was great. And I said, Dad, this is for you. And that gave me a level of happiness that can't be touched. And that's from making the choice to run in a marathon. I shouldn't have run in, but I did. And then the next thing is also just using certain phrase. Here's the thing everybody can try. You can try. Questions. We always frame things in the negative. Oh, why am I so fat? Why am I so tall, short, whatever? But you can use questions and phrase them in a positive way to elicit a positive change. So I want you to ask out loud this question. why am I happy?
Why am I happy?
Now, on the sides of your lip, they started to turn up. And here's why: our subconscious takes in information, garbage in, garbage out. It doesn't care what you feed it. Now, most of the times we're feeding negative information, and our subconscious is a great computer. It says, oh, okay, you said this, I will prove you are right. So when
Interesting.
you say, why am I happy? What happens is your subconscious, I will prove that. And that's why our smile starts to curl up, because we're not even thinking about it. It's almost an instantaneous reaction. So that's important, to use phrases like that. And another phrase that I want you to say is just the phrase, I am enough.
It's just a phrase, I am enough.
And to add to this, now, if you go longer and you said, well, okay, that's great. You can tape on your bathroom mirror. You can tape on your ceiling where you sleep, or someplace you visually see those two phrases. Why am I happy? I am enough. And when you wake up, say it, repeat it, think it, look at it. And right before you go to bed, do that again.
Wow,
And-
amazing.
and now I have my third happiness hack I'll share with you, because I have a whole list, but I'll just share the third one. The other thing people can do, which I found great, is everybody has something they believe in bigger than themselves.
Mhm.
It may be God, it may be Muhammad, it may be Buddha, it may be Jesus, it may be universe, source, whatever for each person is different. But you can write a letter of gratitude for all the things you have. And here's the best part about this letter. When you're writing, dear universe, dear God, dear Muhammad, dear Jesus, dear Buddha, thank you. And now all the things you want to have in your life in the future, maybe you want a great relationship and be closer to your children.
Hmm.
And just writing, dear, universe, dear spirit, dear God, thank you for the beautiful relationship I have with my wife. Thank you for being able to have a smooth communication with my children. Thank you for having more money in my bank account where I have peace of mind. Thank you for having a platform on the internet with multiple channels, whatever the point is. And then when you sign your letter, you're just signing it 3, thank you, thank you, thank you, and you sign your name. Now, the same thing like those phrases of I am enough and why am I happy? You read your letter out loud. You don't have to do it next to your spouse, significant other, kids, but in a place you can see or read it. When you wake up, read it. And it could be any number of goals for finance, things that you'd like to be thankful for in a future sense. Why? Because your brain can also be triggered and trained for future events. So your subconscious will actually want these things to happen for you, all because you said, oh, thank you for the beautiful relationship I have. So for people today who may not have the perfect relationship, someday they'll start to gravitate for that. And
Wow.
here's significance. So when you read that letter, when you wake up, before you go to bed, you do it for 30 days, because as I mentioned about behaviors and habits, 27 to 30 days before they become locked in and you don't have to think about them anymore. That letter, and this isn't my technique, this you can find thousands of web pages of people talking of this technique. But what's relevant is after 30 days, you put it away, forget about it. And then what happens is just start to be aware of the things that are happening and manifesting in your life, that the things you said you were grateful for and appreciative for. And even though they may not be true today, that you have $1 million or you can play a guitar or whatever, everybody has different levels. Because here's the thing about happiness. Yes, some people are happy with the promotion they get. Some people are happy with the supermodel spouse they are married with, or the prestigious apartment, or whatever the temporary thing they lock on, but it's not a permanent happiness. And happiness is different to everybody. But what is significant of the things that do make you happy, and you can think back to a time when you were younger and what made you happiest, and you can relive that today. And even here's another thing, just one more thing I'll talk about for this book. Interesting enough, when we have trauma, we don't want to remember it. We don't want to relive it. However, you can do things to make it easier to deal with. An example is, I'm just going to have you think of something that was sad, traumatic in your past. And once you have that memory, whatever it is, Now, do you have a memory or a thought?
Yes, I do.
So now I want you to replay that memory, but also play circus music while you're playing that memory. Now, even though it doesn't erase the fact that there was some significant event that you went through, all you've done is now you've played circus music, which is very non-threatening. It elicits a romantic, there are many things that elicits the circus music does. And when you combine that now with this traumatic memory, it's not as intense.
Wow, amazing.
Well, it's so many things about the brain is phenomenal and amazing that you can do ready stuff, but just the I am enough on a mirror, reading that every day is the most powerful gift, and the choice to be happy and all the things I've shared about happiness. The other authors also share their happiness hacks. So that's what's amazing. And I thank Ray Brem for inviting me to co-author that book with him and other authors, because everybody had phenomenal things that they share that they do from all exercises, all things.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I learned a lot from you, Joe. I mean, you're just absolutely terrific. It's like, I love when people analyze my handwriting. You did such a great job. And where can we find Naughty or Nice? Whose list are you on? And the Happiness Code at? Where can we find those books?
So Naughty or Nice, whose list are you on, gets handed out at lectures. So when I'm doing lectures on behaviors, red flags, sure, I hand it out because people are typically paying a fee to go to the lecture. But I'm also happy to share. People can contact me for the Happiness Code. That's on Amazon. There's print, there's ebook, easy to find. Just search Happiness Code. You can search my name, Ray Brem's name. I apologize. I haven't memorized all the other authors' names.
It's okay.
But it's still easy enough to find. And it is a great read, because there's always something. And the best part is, this is what all of these authors found that works to give them and bring them happiness in their lives. And even though 100% of everything in the book may not be what it is that you gravitate to or like, what is relevant is there'll be one or more happiness hacks and techniques that people are using that you go, oh, I can try that. And so that's the significance of the book. And that's why it really bestseller, rightly so, because it has, in today's day and age, not just the pandemic, we need books like this that, wow, somebody, even with all this stuff going on, wow, they have found ways that to bring happiness. And when you can do that for somebody else, to see somebody going through a struggle and a hard time and just sharing with them to ask, why am I happy, or I am enough? That is significant, especially when they give a big sigh.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, and we all do. But we do sometimes need that from somebody else to make us remember and help us remember. And then we can reset and keep going on with our lives in a better direction.
And that's very fantastic as well, too. And very amazing stuff. We'll talk about your book, The Devil Pulls the Strings, in just a minute. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SoundWeb Studios. Visit online at soundwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's of Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Also brought to you by Picture This Photo Books. Remembering is a key ingredient. Call Karen Shaw at 646-798-0809 or visit picturethisphotoBooks.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. We'll be back with author Joel Zarek of The Devil Pulls the Strings after this timeout. We're back with author Joel Zarek of The Devil Pulls the Strings here on the Mike Wagner Show. We talked about his amazing career, doing everything from helping the government catch the bad guys, running in the Walt Disney Marathon, and also his books, The Happiness Code, or Naughty or Nice, and just a lot of great stuff. Now let's get to the book that's out September 15th as well, too, The Devil Pulls the Strings. And tell us more about the book. And I guess the question is, can one haunted musician outplay the supernatural to save New York City?
So here's the great thing. Best way to sum up the book: it's where time travel, twisted history, secret societies, and one haunted musician collide. Real simple. the character, the main that we follow through his eyes, first person perspective, is Boone Daniels, and he almost kills his best friend who's in a band.
Mm.
And he's in a hospital. He's like, look, you got to fill in for me. The band set. And the guy's never been out of Wentzville, Missouri. And he's like, whoa, I can't go out of there, because he has other issues. He has debilitating panic attacks. He has guilt. Why? When he was 6, his family was attacked by a horrific monster, an evil spirit called a Wendigo. And that he's left with this debilitating panic attacks because anytime he sleeps, anytime he's in dark enclosed spaces, the Wendigo appears and it continues coming after him. So he has scars, scrapes, bruises all over his body. And now his friends asked him to go to New York. And he's like, I've never been out of Wentzville. I've never been anywhere. Will that thing follow me? Will that thing harm other people? But, this person helped him out, got him his first job out of all places. Wentzville, Missouri is where the St. Louis Renaissance Festival is.
Oh my gosh.
Or Renaissance Fair. And many people in small towns by Ren fairs, they all end up invariably working at the Ren Fair in some capacity because it's income, it's work. And Boone Daniels, just like his best friend Flynn Michaels, he became a Ren Fair knight. And it was during a joust where he almost killed his best friend.
Oh my.
Yeah, but also, his friend in the band, the Village Idiots, he asked him, he said, my set, go to New York. So of course he has to keep a promise because Flynn was always there for him. But when he steps out of the cab, he catches sheet music from Paganini, because here's a good question, a segue. Niccolo Paganini, born in 1782, is recognized as the world's greatest violinist, and he was the world's first rock star of the violin world. And rumor has it, his mother gave his soul to the devil so Paganini would be the world's greatest violinist.
Oh, wow.
Imagine a
Amazing.
world where this was true. Then you would be immersed in The Devil Pulls the Strings.
Oh, I see. Okay. When you think about Devil's Soul and the Soul of the Violin, makes me think of Devil Went Down to Georgia, Charlie Daniels. That's the first association I had with it.
And thank you for that association. And in that, so Boone steps out of a cab. Sure enough, he hears a commotion up above in townhomes in New York City. He catches falling sheet music. He sees Paganini's name. And then this beautiful girl holding a violin case with her head buried in a cell phone barrels into him. Next thing you know, all of a sudden, the contact he's supposed to meet, Professor Stone, his body smashes into the pavement next to them.
Oh my gosh.
Then men with guns appear in Professor Stone's doorway. They start firing at Boone and the girl, saying, get the music. Boone grabs the girl's hand, escapes, and then he finds himself on this wild ride through time to find what he discovers, a sinister scheme to use Paganini's music to summon the devil. So Boone, he gets, on this wild ride of all things through time to try and find this cursed music because he wants to stop this whole big thing from happening. And in it, he discovers there are 2 secret societies fighting each other. And they're all basically, everybody Boone meets is trying to use him all for the summoning ceremony for their own purposes. And he has to deal with that. So when he accidentally falls in a portal back to 1813 Genoa, Italy, he still now has to figure out how to get back to modern time, to say modern New York City, because one bad group, if they attempt to summon the devil, it might destroy New York City.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. And it's even more than that. But that's in a nutshell what it is. And all Boone's just trying to keep his promise to his friend Flynn he almost killed. And so throwing all this, you have the secret societies. You have a crazed immortal that also is in the mix, and even the mother of all witches, Baba Yaga. So
oh my gosh,
all these things are thrown in, and it's not a story that stops to smell the roses. It reads and plays just like a movie on the big screen or a TV screen. A lot of action, just things going on, and the characters, yes, are well developed. From the love interest to all the helper mentors to the different characters Boone meets. And from reviews, the book has already won a Literary Titan Award.
oh wow.
And it's gotten 5-star awards from Clarion, from Chanticleer, Literary Titans, and Book Viral. And it's also gotten almost 40 other reviews from different sources. that all give varying reviews, but the greatest thing were people who said it was just like I was there following the characters, loved the banter between, you know, the protagonist Boone and the love interest Sapphire, and just seeing their banter and sarcasm, because for this character, he has 3 days before all of this happens. So he's on a wild ride himself because he's a small town musician.
Oh
And
my gosh.
coming up against the secret societies, which he's never heard of secret societies.
Mhm.
He couldn't believe any of this fantastical world. And it's just nonstop. So for people who, again, love time travel, twisted history, and when secret societies collide, they're going to love this book. And it really is. It, you know, ironically, I wrote it as an epic fantasy adventure. 2 reviewers classified it as an urban fantasy because it ticks all the marks of urban fantasy, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But it's still, I wanted to honor the hero's journey.
Mm.
I grew up on books. I don't know what books you grew up when you were reading when you were young, but did you ever read J.R. Tolkien or any big fantasy? Oh, see, and I did too.
Lord of the Rings, and there was also The Hobbit, and I think
Yeah.
there's another along those lines, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis, one of my favorites. Amazing.
Yeah. So with that, in this book, I had to write it, and it's my first fiction. The other books are nonfiction, but in this one, I wanted to honor the hero's journey. But I grew up on bedtime stories with Slavic mythology and, funny enough, tales of the mother of all witches, Baba Yaga. And one thing I wanted to do was the hero's journey, but also infuse Slavic mythology and the many faces of Baba Yaga, because what is seen most often in movies, books, video games is a 2-dimensional figure of Baba Yaga. And that's fine. But she's so much more than that, because in all the stories, when you go throughout many cultures around the globe and world, not just Hansel and Gretel as being a start to a Baba Yaga story, but all these cultures have Yaga in the name, with an old woman, being an old crone, or a babushka, an old village woman. And Baba Yaga, she can be seen, yes, as she is, or as a trio of sisters, or any number of supernatural beings. But she controls the weather, and she can help the hero. She can be an antagonist, a mentor, a helper. And even if the hero completes the quest, yes, she may eat him at the end. But the point is, she's many faces, and to infuse that. And the reason why it works is, again, all the old stories, bedtime stories, myths that we grew up on, all taught moral lessons. And
yes.
and my book really is about hope, because that's the biggest message I want to give to people, because all the characters are dysfunctional in this story. All of them have issues. The main character, he has debilitating panic attacks.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah. And when he's in close spaces, these happen, and then the Wendigo appears. So he has to deal with that. And then he almost killed his best friend. So all that guilt that's inside of him, and his parents disappearing when he was 6. But then even the love interest wants to get her father's love, and she is in a annual Paganini competition. So Paganini, in his music, in this story, imagine in this story, you have to combine 3 of Paganini's songs to reveal a secret song. And in the audiobook, I found Oleg Bezuglov, a world-class violinist, and Vladimir Gapontsev, a world-class guitarist. Now, I had for the audiobook them create the snippets of Paganini's music. Now, he's over 160 years since Paganini's been around, so there's no copyright issues, but I had them do both the violin version, because the love interest plays the violin, and Boone Daniels plays the guitar and electric guitar. So they did the snippets for the music, but they also did the secret sonata.
Wow. Amazing.
And so this whole thing is just that, and it's just a wild ride. So in that, honoring the hero's journey, and the hero's journey is nothing more, for those that don't know, it's you have a normal life, and then all of a sudden you're thrust in a world that is not yours, and you now have to do some major epic tale, be it save your town, save your city, save the world. And that's what it is, and it's high stakes. So that is everything on a platter, and it's just, there is a series potential. And you mentioned The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Bonnie Solomon, the producer of the Chronicles of Narnia, she told me when she said, wow, this would make a great series
Mhm.
because it's so comprehensive. And I hadn't thought of that. But I was like, well, thank you, because it's Bonnie Sutherland. And she's also been involved in Shrek and City of Embers, and just like, whoa. And it was very nice that she said that. But there are future books in the work of the different characters in this book. So they'll have their own standalone book, but it'll still be the series that continues, just because if you know the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, it's on TV, but it's also an amazing written series about a Chicago detective that's also a wizard. So people who were reviewing, who happen to know Jim Butcher and his series, they were like, oh my God, your humor is so similar to the Dresden Files. And the character is just that. He's a detective and he's also a wizard, and he goes through in a normal life, but there's also magic. And the comedy is wow, very superb. And it just, you'd have to read the books to understand, but that was a compliment that someone was comparing me to Jim Butcher, because just whoa. And he has a very prolific, many books that he's written. So I'm catching up with my 3.
That's so amazing. And I was just going to say, this is like the librarians meet the magicians. That's what it sounds like.
In fact, that's what it is. It, if you want, it can be described as the librarians. That was a TV series with Nora Wisely and Bob Newhart. And in it, they were a good secret society, just safeguarding magical items. And funny enough, the good secret society in my book, that's what they're doing too. And they're not at the Historical Society, but they're in New York. And so is the bad secret society. And that's what is the Lavender and Roses Good Secret Society. The bad secret society, Dragons and Nymphs. And it's just, they are always at wit's ends and always coming to blows and always basically interfering with each other. And you see that throughout the whole novel, and they're using Boone. So it's the main character. So it's interesting how you just read it. It's a good read, and it's just for what people want. Now, of course, if you like all the fluff and the expanded content, this book, I wrote it to be a fast-moving wild ride that doesn't stop. And there are some slow chapters on purpose, but you understand after you read it.
It picks up in the end. And where can we find The Devil Pulls the Strings at, Joe?
You can find it for pre-sales for the ebook on Amazon, Ingram Sparks, Barnes and Noble. And then on the 15th, it goes where you can actually get the print and ebook then. Right now, it's just pre-orders. Audiobook is still in production, and I believe it was supposed to be done today. Kurt Bonham is the narrator. He does 30 voices. He's phenomenal. He had, before my book, he had over 87 books on Audibles, and he's a phenomenal. He's like, what doesn't he do? He does everything: acting, producing, voiceovers. He's been in movies. So I was very lucky to get him to narrate. And just like all the people, the audiobook's being done by Proteo Voices, and they just finished. The sound engineer was incorporating music. So as soon as that's finished, I can then put that on Audible and other locations for people to get the prologue that they can hear as a sample chapter. But for the physical book, and there's also a graphic novel we didn't talk about, but I wanted to have the print, the ebook, the hard print, the audiobook, and also a graphic novel, because different audiences gravitate to different mediums. And funny enough, I kept getting told this is great for a young audience, even though I wrote it for an adult audience, because there are people dying in the book. It's not intended per se, but because so many people told me these were the kind of books they read when they were 12, 13, I can't discount. I'm like, okay, great. I'm glad I wasn't open to that, because a contact is going splat. The body is crashing in front of you. And in the graphic novel, it's rather graphic. So I would not give that to kids to read, but the story itself is good enough for that. And many individuals will love it. And the worst criticism I actually got, which I'm fine with, a person said there are no LGBT plus characters in the book. That's what they were disappointed about. It's a bromance. It's a guy keeping a promise to his friend, and it's a high-speed race. That just was no time. Even looking back, going, well, where could I even introduce characters? this particular story, this particular book, there just wasn't any place to do that. A future book, hey, maybe, but
Mhm.
again, write what you know. And I'm from New York, and I actually went to every place that the character goes because I wanted to step out of a cab and I wanted to see at this townhome, what does the protagonist see? What do I see? And funny enough, I describe the smell. Now, New York City is very clean, can be, but at the corner of this block was a Japanese restaurant, and they hadn't picked up the trash that yet.
Oh my
But there was a
gosh.
whole combination of smells of puke, dog urine, and other smells. And the character's like, whoa. And out at the front steps where he sees lavender and roses, because that's one of the societies. And he's commenting that even though there are all these lavender and roses, they can hardly mask the smell of this garbage. And even though this is a city that never sleeps, they forgot to pick up their trash.
Oops.
But anyway, so I go all over the place on tangents. Sorry.
That's so amazing. I mean, you're a wealth of information, Joe. I gotta say that I really learned a lot from you. Yeah, and we're here with author Joe Zarek of The Devil Pulls the Strings here on the Mike Wagner Show. A very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing, and just a few more minutes as well here. And you're very enjoyable. Love to have you back. What
Sure.
else can we expect from you in 2021 and beyond?
Well, again, the getting the book for audiobook is significant. The graphic novel, hey, I'm just going to say for all you authors out there that want to do a graphic novel, if you're an American, it's okay to stick with American companies because you may encounter a language barrier. There are many professionals around the world, but if you're not from a specific culture or know another language, you get interesting results when you give your material to books. Examples are drivers on the wrong side of the car, characters reading the wrong food where you're talking about gyros, but in the scene they've drawn hamburgers. But for future projects, I'm working full time. I do 14 to 16-hour days, still catching naughty folk. So unfortunately, that takes up most of my time. So the fact I got to write a book, and I spent 2.5 years researching the book before I wrote, took 10 months to get the first draft, but then almost 5 years doing the revisions with my line by line editor who cut 42,000 words and to make it a better tight read. But now, as soon as this done and the promotions are done, I can finally start writing the next book in the series and then the next book. So and I have my blog. So there are people who can go onto my website to see my blog for just my musings, and on the Facebook group as well. But yeah, I'll be writing the next set of books.
That's so amazing. We're certainly looking forward to it, Joe. I just can't wait. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
You know what? Funny enough, I can go from Stephen King, and he has on Writing Well, an amazing book that just cuts to the chase on what makes a great author. There's George R.R. Martin for Fire and Ice and what we've seen, the Game of Thrones series.
Mhm.
And it was crazy to see some of his writing style as I was writing this book. Whoa, I couldn't believe that there was certain formatting that I was doing. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm reading George R.R. Martin's book and I wrote something similar. Wow, that's awesome. And a bigger influence also Margie Lawson. Margie Lawson, a psychologist and a best-selling author, she teaches using edits and emotions in writing to amp up your writing. So I dedicated this book, The Devil Pulls String Tour, because what I learned from her and her master classes and all her courses was how to write better, how to communicate better in my own voice. Because what she does is she shows you, okay, look, you need to have a visceral reaction when you write. And you also have to have internal physical actions, and you have to have a thought going on in your mind, and you have to show, not use the tired cliches, which we're all guilty of. And she shared and showed all of that to me. And because of that, when I was in a master class, immersion class, everyone else was best-selling authors, all female, all Regency novels and historical fictions. And I was very humbled because I didn't even have a book then, but the fact that I was there, and when we were crafting sentences, I got the whole room to go, ooh.
Ooh,
And
I can feel it.
So to get that, like from that validation from a room full, one woman, she was going to hit 25 bestsellers that year. I was very humbled to be in that company with Margie Lawson, and she just inspires you to raise up your writing. So for authors, yeah, Stephen King, Douglas Adams, George R. R. Martin. I grew up with so many people, science fiction, Terry Pratchett. I mean, I can go on and on with all the authors, but for Margie Lawson, for writing, she is how I give credit to why my writing became significantly better than it was. And I'm have so much further to go. It's a very humbling experience when you write and you never stop learning. So for all the authors out there, just yes, take classes, find mentors, find writing groups, find beta readers if you can't afford editors. Yes, use editors if you can and can budget for them. But goodness, get out there and then don't just publish your stuff. Let somebody else see it. And don't worry about people stealing your stuff. You don't have to do that. Great ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the execution in your own words, but finding a way to effectively communicate in your own words, to really share and show the story in your words. Yeah, that makes all the difference in the world. So thank you, Margie Lawson, for that.
That's so amazing as well, too. We thank you as well, too. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Oh, well, again, remember, tell yourself every day when you wake up and go to bed, I am enough. Ask yourself every now and again, why am I happy? Make the choice to be happy. And when you want to step out to do other things in your lives, you may not have had that support, but know that you can, but you have to start somewhere. So make the choice and then pursue. Except serial killers, no, don't make those choices. But for everyone else, I want everybody to know that they are enough. And they just remember to say, I am enough.
And that's very important as well, too. Once again, we're with author Joe Zarek of The Devil Pulls the Strings on the Mike Wagner Show. Joe, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Learned a lot from you. Looking forward to have you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. Love you to have back on 2021. Don't forget to keep in touch. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects, what's your website, how do people contact, or can people purchase or check out your books?
Yeah, again, JW Zarek is the website. There are links. You can go to Amazon, any of the Amazon pages around the globe. Any other country, Barnes and Noble, Ingram Sparks, and if you run into problems, you can contact me right on my website. My Facebook group, easy to find me. Just search, you will find me. LinkedIn, I'm all over the place, for better or for worse.
We certainly will do so. Once again, Joe, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. Love you back in 2021 and beyond. Don't forget to keep in touch. You've been absolutely amazing and terrific, and we definitely wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mike Wagner.